Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. You know, tourism continues to be a major employer and contributor to the Upper Michigan economy. We're going to talk about that today with someone who is very much involved in that industry. It starts right now.
From TV6, this is The Ryan Report. Here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, for many years, our guest this morning has been very much a part of the Upper Michigan tourism scene, with a particular interest in Alger County. He's an owner and general manager of the very popular Pictured Rocks Cruises, and he served as a member of the Michigan Travel Commission since 2014. A pleasure to welcome back John Madigan to the Ryan Report. John, nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me back, Don.
You know, you've been here before, so we won't spend a lot of time on history, but you are a Munising native.
I am.
And you're also an NMU graduate.
I am.
And I know that you went off and became a teacher, you were a contractor, you were in other parts of the country for a while, but you eventually got back to where you wanted to be and doing what you wanted to do, right?
Absolutely. I always loved the Upper Peninsula, and I have a strong love for Munising. And I thought about moving back here all the time, and when there's an opportunity was presented, I was able to make that move and haven't regretted it at all.
And your family has one of the older retail establishments in Munising as well.
Don, our hardware store this year is 99 years in business on the corner of Elm and Superior Street, third generation, still in the family.
Is it accurate to say that tourism is now the major industry in Alger County?
Well, we have a very strong paper mill,
right?
You know, which is very, very strong. But you know, the National Lakeshore is a $35 to $40 million impact to Munising.
Right.
So if it's not number one, it's certainly probably number two. We have a good sawmill outside of town.
Right.
Of course, we have those things. But as far as bringing actual businesses and opportunity to thrive, I think it's certainly right up there if it's not number one.
And one of the key attractions is obviously the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. And it's kind of fun for me to think about the history of that, because I was a young reporter, I think, here at TV6, when not everyone wanted to see that park come, did they?
No, they didn't, and it's still there's still some remnants of that you know, resentment that the federal government came in and condemned property and put it into the park, and people got compensated. Some think they didn't get compensated fairly, and it's very historical. And people had camps out on Miners Beach and 12 Mile Beach, and you know, so it was very it met with very high resistance from the locals. And as times has gone on, I think that has gone away some. I think some of it's generational. But there was some real resistance to it.
It was very hotly debated politically, I can remember.
Absolutely.
The other thing, of course, is this did not become an overnight sensation. It took a long, long time for that park to really develop, didn't it?
It did.
You know, the government originally kind of bought the lakeshore, bought the property, and then didn't do much with it. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I think they knew it was a national attraction. I mean, you know, I think they knew that it would have potential, but I think the marketing that's gone on with Pure Michigan, the marketing's gone on with the local businesses, you know, the Visitors Bureau certainly, and some of the local businesses there, and the advent of internet, where you know everybody knows what's going on. And I think it raised the level of Pictured Rocks to what it could potentially be because of the exposure it's received.
But they built some facilities, they built some roads that were really pretty key to that development, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the road, probably another big factor is they paved the road from Munising to Grand Marais. And I think that really enhanced the opportunity for people to come and experience the lakeshore. So yeah, it's grown. And I think it has a lot of potential. I think the Upper Peninsula has a lot of potential. I think we do as a whole. But
one of the interesting things I know that tourism people talk about, and I've heard you talk about it before, is you want to become a destination. And really, Alger County and Munising have become a destination now, haven't they?
Yeah, it's not a drive-by event anymore. Right. Our average visitor, we do a pretty substantial survey every year. Our average visitor is on a 5-day vacation, spends 3 days in Alger County.
And many of those people come specifically because of the National Lakeshore.
They come because of National Lakeshore. But when they get there, they find out that we have 15, 20 waterfalls. We have very good hiking trails. We have bike trails, and we have other businesses that look at shipwrecks or pontoon rentals or other boat rides. So it's more comprehensive than just coming and getting on a boat and leaving anymore.
And to support all that, there's been a real growth in number of motels and restaurants and the other attractions, as you just talked about.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a new motel going up on the beach right now that has 60 units, and I think the motels that are there, a lot of those motels now were built for the snowmobile business back in the 60s, and all of a sudden, the snowmobile business is still important. But all of a sudden, the summer business has overtaken the snowmobile business.
Obviously, that winter tourism is important too, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If you're going to be in that business, you don't want to be busy for half the year.
Yes, and we got the ice climbing, which is, that's world class, and of course the snowmobiling and the trails and the outdoor. We got the ski Valley Spears cross country ski trail. We got a lot of opportunity for winter sports. Are
we beginning to attract some foreign visitors as well?
Yeah, we get about 40 to 50 countries represented every year on our boats. Yes.
Wow, that's kind of
in every state. So our ticketing system allows us to monitor every ticket that's sold. So we still have very heavily dominated Michigan-based attraction.
And I think in the Lakeshore last year was the first year the park had over 800,000 visitors.
That is correct.
That's a lot of people.
We're catching Mackinac.
Catching Mackinac.
Yeah, we're trying.
That's a big effort. We'll come back and talk some more about the cruises and some other things in just a couple of minutes. Back with more on the Ryan Report after we take this break. Our guest this morning is John Madigan. John is an owner and general manager of Pictured Rocks Cruises. He's also a member of the Michigan Travel Commission. Let's talk about the Pictured Rocks Cruises. I didn't realize the history that actually Cleveland Cliffs at one time used to take people out to see the Lakeshore.
In the 20s, they had a boat called the Ottawa, and they took people out, I think, on Saturdays or Sundays every day, or every in the summertime on Saturday or Sunday, and went out to the cliffs. And that was the start of the Pictured Rocks kind of cruise business. To start with Cleveland Cliffs.
And so some other guys tried it as well, I think.
Right
after that.
There was a couple of guys that had wooden boats. Some of them were very small, 10, 12, 14 passengers, and they took out people in the summertime, a couple trips a year or a couple trips a day. And eventually, the person that co-founded or founded the Pictured Rocks Cruises bought one of those people out and started running. He was a mechanic at a local garage.
Really?
Yep, and started running Pictured Rocks Cruises back in 1945.
Really? I think I was reading somewhere where the present company kind of really got its start in like 1974. Maybe it became organized and bought some more ships.
Yeah, in 1974 we built the first Schwartz vessel from Wisconsin. It was a 200 passenger, now 150 passenger steel boat, and that was really the first big class boat that Pictured Rocks had. Had some smaller ones before that, but that was the 150 passenger vessel. That was in 1974.
Okay. What are your concerns as you manage this business? Obviously, weather has to be one of them. How do you make those decisions on a day-to-day basis?
Every day.
Yeah.
So we watch the weather. One good thing with the boats we have, if we do get in, if the weather starts kicking up, we turn the trip around, and we have a very liberal refund policy depending on how far we get down the coast, and then we cancel the rest of the day or cancel till the weather improves. We do have a very high technical weather buoy outside Pictured Rocks that measures the wave height and the wind, direction. That gives us a printout every 10 minutes.
Okay, we've got a couple of pictures, and we're going to take a look at those. And this is one of the new ships that you added, and there's a picture of the ship now, and this has some special features. Tell us about that.
Well, this is a truly designed boat just for kayaks. The boat takes the kayaker out inside a cabin, and we have the comforts of heat and bathrooms. And when we get out to the start of the real good cliffs on Pictured Rocks, we let the anchor down and we launch the people off a dual launch system on the back of the boat.
So this is obviously a service that people wanted, and here's another shot. Mm-hmm. How many kayaks can you carry on this ship?
That has 36 tandem kayaks and 6 guide kayaks for a total of 42 kayaks.
So this is a really different experience. You bring people out and then they can go and
Right.
kayak, and yet you're there in case there's a problem.
Yeah, the boat, respectfully follows the groups of people at, a couple hundred yards away. And if people if they get tired or they get sick or the weather changes, we can get them back on the boat, load them back in a fairly quick amount of time, and then get them back into Munising and then get them back to the dock.
And this is just one of the new boats, but you continually invest in new boats, don't you? That's
Yes.
an important part of making this all work.
Well, I think people want, different levels of experiences. Some people want a faster boat. Some people want some more amenities. And I think as our business expands and grows, we have to make sure we're cognizant of those wants and hopefully can fill that void or that need or that experience. So that's what we're trying to do.
And I think I was looking at my notes. The passenger growth since 1992 has really been astounding.
Yes, we averaged in the 90s up to probably the early 2000s, 40,000 passengers, and now we're probably around 160 to 180,000 a year.
And you track that daily, you were telling
Every
me.
day.
You know what's going on.
Well, we try to, yes.
Yeah.
It's very important to have good information. We have good staff. We have good reporting systems, and it's very important so we can determine what we need and use that data to market, use that data to get capital expense in the right positions so we can expand the business and keep growing.
And each year you also do a special tour for Yoopers. Tell us about that.
Well, that's the second weekend in June. We started the local chamber, and the cruises started this 7-8 years ago. And we have a free weekend for anybody with a UP valid picture ID.
Okay.
And they can come and take the cruise for free. All they got to do is come and get a ticket that day. We give them, and we take them out. And we average around 3,000 people now, 2,500 to 3,000 people for the weekend on the boats.
So you've given away thousands of tours then.
15,000 to
Wow.
date.
And this has become now kind of a community-wide event, hasn't it?
Oh, I think there's 100 vendors this year. 4 or 5 bands and a clown and a bounce house and petting zoo, and it's other than the 4th of July, it's probably the biggest event in Munising.
Okay. That's great. We'll come back and talk more about tourism in just a couple of minutes. Back with John Madigan after we take this 2-minute break. Again, our guest this morning is John Madigan. John is on the Michigan Travel Commission, also an owner and a general manager of Pictured Rocks Cruises. I've said you're a shameless promoter of UP tourism, but you really think we have opportunities, don't you?
I think the Upper Peninsula as a whole has a total opportunity to enhance the opportunity for tourism here. We have so many resources and so many things people want, and so the diverse resources. We have obviously Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, but we have the Keweenaw, and we have Kitchikikippi, and we have miles and miles of hiking and biking trails in that natural family valued experience. It's very attainable and very reasonable price compared to almost any place else in the country. The camping areas we have. You got Mackinac Island, you got the Sioux Locks, you got Quamantum Falls. You got Kitchikikippi, you got the Keweenaw, you got the Porcupine Mountains.
Yeah.
And and I think we're promoting that going forward, promoting it the whole
Promote the whole UP as an
yeah,
area. Right.
absolutely.
You, the last time you were here, Delta Sky Magazine had just published a story on the Upper Peninsula. Did that turn out the way you hoped, and has it paid some benefits?
I think it has. That story was more about just tourism, but it was about
Right.
entrepreneurship and quality of life, and getting people to relocate back here. I always wonder why everybody goes to Florida in the wintertime, but we need more of those people to buy houses up here in Michigan in the summertime.
I'm here in the summertime.
Yes, and retire here and make this a thing for the future for the young people coming up, so they can stay here and make a good living and have a career and raise their families.
And these things we're talking about, these things are really in fashion today, aren't they? People
Absolutely.
want natural things. People want opportunities for natural outdoor recreation.
They want natural outdoor recreation. They want the kind of a rustic experience, a family valued experience. And some of those people come up here and they want a high end experience too. Right. And I think we have a 5-star restaurant now in Munising that is catering to those people. So I think there's a real broad spectrum of what people are looking for, and I think the Upper Peninsula can provide almost all of that.
Let's talk a little bit about the Michigan Travel Commission. You have an interesting history. I think it was in 2002 you were appointed to the Natural Resources Commission and
Correct.
Served there until 2014 when you became a member of this commission.
Yes.
What is the role of the commission?
Well, the role of the commission is to be liaisons with the travel industry and get the feedback from the different organizations that the commissioners are on. We have representation from the Henry Ford and from the Grand Hotel, and up at the Keweenaw we have Lorien Manor Inn, and of course the Pictured Rocks, and we have Michigan Adventures over in Muskegon, and we have Treetops as a representative, and we meet every couple months. Look at what's going on in the industry, give feedback to Dave Lorenz, our leader, who is very good for our organization for the state of Michigan, and just get together and work with those people, put on the governor's conference help put on the governor's conference on tourism, and we get together, get about 1,000 people there every year to come and talk about what's coming on in tourism, the technology, the internet, all those types of things that keep people informed and abreast of what's happening.
Is Pure Michigan still going forward?
Yes.
Are we still investing in that?
Yes, we are, and we're getting investing a little bit more. The Pure Michigan campaign continually rates as one of the top state campaigns, even though Florida and Hawaii outspend us quite substantially. But that Pure Michigan campaign is really powerful, and I think that's helped the Upper Peninsula greatly.
And it really does relate well to us because we are Pure Michigan.
Yes.
And these are the kind of things we're promoting. What does Alger County have to do to continue to see the development in that area?
I think we have to make sure we maintain a high experience level of the people coming in and visiting. We probably have to keep our promotion going strong and reaching out to people. We have to provide the services that people want. Just like the kayak business we build, we have people now that are 75 or 80 that never thought they could ever do that, can do that now. People with some disabilities, they can get out and do that stuff, and reaching out to those edge things that, a little bit off the center core that we can attract people.
Okay.
People will come here to do those things if they can do them.
Okay. Is everybody happy, or are some people unhappy to see all the activity in town?
Well, never. I don't know if everybody's always happy. Obviously there's more traffic in the summertime, and there's the establishments are busier, and you just won't go to the grocery store and walk out in a few minutes. So there are some people that probably think we have enough tourists in the area, and they have a right to that opinion.
Okay. Well, you've certainly done a great job in promoting tourism, not just for Munising and Alger County, but for the UP and through the Michigan Travel Commission. And thanks for coming in this morning and sharing your experiences.
Well, Don, thank you for having me.
Okay. We'll have some other thoughts for you in just a couple of minutes. Back after this break. Let me ask you a question. Did you like geography when you were in school? Apparently a lot of kids did not, and I was one of them. As I got older, I developed a real interest in the subject, but that was not the case when I was in school. Today we can see the results of generations of kids not learning what they should have about geography. I say that because it happened again. This time it was Mountain Dew. They made the Upper Peninsula part of Wisconsin on a colorful new label they introduced recently. Some people are pretty upset about it, and perhaps rightfully so. I don't think they're reacting because they don't like Wisconsin. After all, a state that offers us butter, beer, and bratwurst can't be all bad. In fact, it's a state that has a lot to offer. It's just this issue was decided a long time ago, and we are part of Michigan. But back to geography. After doing a little research, I found that many people have come to the conclusion that students in the United States are horrible at geography. I also learned that in many states, geography falls in the category of social studies, along with things like history, civics, and economics. A report from the Government Accountability Office found that more than half of social studies teachers spend 10% or less of their time on geography. Now we know why we've had so many times when someone has made us part of Wisconsin. They just don't know their geography. And while we're on the subject of people knowing about Upper Michigan, let me share something else. This region has become well known for two unique foods, even though neither one actually had its beginnings here. The first, of course, is the pasty. You can find it in other places today, but it's surprising the number of times that Upper Michigan is mentioned on the internet in stories or recipes about the pasty. Of course, the truth is the pasty is an import that arrived in the Upper Peninsula over a century and a half ago from Cornwall, England. It came with the Cornish miners who worked in the mines in this area. And by the way, the pasty is still very popular in England, and why not? It's certainly one of my favorites. The other food we frequently see associated with Upper Michigan is the kudige. For me, this popular sandwich had its beginnings in Ishpeming, where I remember knowing this unique treat when I was in high school. And while its fame has begun to expand like the pasty, it's also an import. The kudige came to Upper Michigan with the Italians who settled here many years ago. Today there are quite a few restaurants who offer this unique sandwich that now comes in several varieties, including with cheese and pizza sauce, but the original I remember came with mustard and onions, and that's the way I still prefer it today. So what have we learned today? We realized that kids are learning less about geography, and it shows. We also learned that two of our unique foods originally came from somewhere else, but so what? It's kind of like squatters' rights. After all these years, we can claim them as our own. I'll be back in a minute. Time for us to wrap it up for another week. I do want to remind you that you can always see a rebroadcast of this show, including past episodes, at uppermichigansource.com. Thanks to John Madigan for joining us this morning. John is a great ambassador for UP Tourism, and it's good to hear that we're doing well. And I'm glad you could join us today. Look forward to seeing you again next Sunday morning.